don't understand. They have a baby or don't they?
Hello, this is Bill and Sonia, and welcome to our review of Servant, Season 2, Episode 9, Goose. This episode brought us a Christmas-themed lunch, but it's far from festive.
Only a perfect Turner Christmas would have a Christmas lunch and not an early dinner like most folks.
Well, what did you think of the episode?
I loved all the symbolism this episode had. I mean, all the episodes have symbolism, but this one seemed to have a little bit more than normal. And what's a Wisconsin Yeti?
That would be an Uncle George, a Tio Jorge.
What about you? What'd you think?
I was shocked how Julian was acting. Like, what was his problem? He was being a super prick. I liked the dad's younger girlfriend, Courtney, though.
She was hilarious.
Yeah.
And they were all dressed to the nines. I love that. Dorothy with her brocade balloon sleeve dress and Sean looking dapper with his yellow socks.
That was stylish. Yep.
Well, Goose begins with Sean literally plucking the feathers off a goose. One of the feathers makes its way into the house and floats upstairs before being vacuumed up by Dorothy. Mm-hmm. The symbolism, I think, begins here. So the feather could have symbolized their expectations of becoming parents again. Mm. What did you think that meant when Dorothy vacuumed up the feather?
Oh, well, I thought it just shot down everyone's theory and expectations about the idea that the show is going to resurrect Jericho. Mm-hmm. You know, the feather was heading towards the Jericho's crib, and the show said, nope, snatch. Brilliant. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah. And I think they conditioned us. Like they know we all watch Forrest Gump and that iconic scene with the feather and it lands in the different areas and hope and blah, blah, blah. And, they just shot us down. It also reminded me of like something Game of Thrones did. There's the difference between the book fans and the show fans. Okay. So in the book, there was a storyline where Catherine Stark, after she's killed in the Red Wedding, her body floats down the river, and then the Hound finds her body when he walks to the side of the river, pulls her out, and they resurrect her. And then they have the whole Lady Stoneheart storyline from there. That was real popular with the book fans.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, in the show, the scene, the Hound gets up, walks to the river's edge, and everybody's like, oh, here, it's going to happen, Lady Stoneheart. And then he just urinates into the river, like, to piss on their expectations, I guess. Yeah. So this was kind of like that. And I just thought it was incredible.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that Leanne was Cersei's daughter on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dorothy checks on Uncle George, but he isn't there. She asks Leanne where he is. Leanne tells her George left the night before. Mm-hmm. And Dorothy assumes, of course, that he's going to come back with Jericho. Mm-hmm. So that's why he left.
Yeah, Dorothy's hanging ornaments to celebrate Jericho's first Christmas, even though he's not there, but she is patiently anticipating his arrival.
Yeah. Dorothy's father, Frank, played by Todd Waring, and his girlfriend, Courtney with a K, played by Kathy Lee Hill, show up at the house and things get strange.
Yeah, I think the significance of Dorothy saying Courtney with a K is because one of her miscarriages was named Courtney.
Right.
But it was spelled with a C.
Right.
So if you go back to season 1, episode 4, Bear, you'll see the pregnancy test with the name Courtney on it.
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And because Dorothy says it like that, Courtney with a K, Sean recognizes the name of his potential daughter and empathetically tells Dorothy, hey, we don't have to do this.
Yeah. Sean is being really sweet in this episode. Yep. Both he and Dorothy seem to be on the same page for once. I mean, she doesn't know what's going on, but we're kind of on the same page. Dorothy meets his dad's new younger girlfriend, who appears to be even younger than Dorothy. Mm-hmm. And as usual, Dorothy turns on the condescension. Yeah. By saying, aren't you sweet? After Courtney jokes with her about her saying she was a big fan.
Yeah. I'm a big fan.
And we saw this condescending attitude towards Leanne before.
I think that looks great on you, Dorothy. Oh, you're so sweet.
So it's kind of normal for Dorothy.
What about Courtney's laugh?
Well, she was in a live production for SpongeBob.
She was?
Yeah.
Really? Well, what did you think, or what do you think the symbolism is when Sean is gutting the goose? So they made it very obvious with the close-up of the guts. What did you think that meant?
Well, when I think about guts, I think about voodoo or occult rituals where they're taking the entrails of an animal and all that. It also may represent anxiety. We obviously see Julian's anxiety build until he pops.
Yeah, the show, it's almost like they try to make the food look gross, but it still looks good to me.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Well, Leanne's in the kitchen. She's worried that Dorothy expected Jericho to come back that day. And what will Dorothy do if Jericho doesn't return that day?
Right.
Sean tells both Leanne and Julian that he believes that it's a possibility that it could happen. Leanne says, George isn't like me. You know, he's not going to break the rules. And Julian doesn't believe that Dorothy will kill herself. And neither do you.
No, I do not. Hell no. I think Dorothy is faking. And that it just may be her way of trying to further manipulate Leanne.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, like, okay, for example, Dorothy sneaking down to the basement to set up the noose made out of Jericho's clothes, and she just happened to leave the door wide open for Leanne to find it. And then when Leanne asks her about it later on, her answer is just so like fake and rehearsed, and it just seemed like absolute theater to me.
Well, Lauren Ambrose was nominated for a Tony Award for her performance in My Fair Lady.
Okay. Well, so maybe she thinks Leanne will somehow bring back Jericho for, by if she makes her feel guilty enough, like, thinking that Dorothy's going to kill herself.
I hadn't thought of that. So you don't think she would actually kill herself? It's just all a big, like a game.
Absolutely.
A farce. She's putting up a farce. Okay.
Yeah. Well, then the lunch is short-lived as there's tension in the house, mainly because Julian's detest for his father and the new girlfriend. Sean makes a prayer before they eat, which was weird, asking them to take away their food and fineries and bring back Jericho instead, which was more theater in my opinion. Julian gets really irritated at Sean's prayer and asks him what was that about. Frank tries to calm Julian down, but nothing is easing his anxiety.
What was up with the bonnet potatoes costing $300 per pound? Why did Sean mention that?
Sean's kind of a pretentious chef, and I know when I get something really expensive, and it's not going to be $300 a pound potatoes, it could be a $50 ribeye or something. I mentioned that too. So I don't know what it means for his character other than just Sean being Sean.
Well, did you notice how Leanne didn't take Sean's hand and Julian didn't take Courtney's hand during Reverend Sean's grace?
Yeah, Leanne looked at Sean like, hey, I'm not playing for that team anymore. And the purpose of the prayer, I think, was just more manipulation, trying to guilt Leanne.
Get Leanne into bringing Jericho back.
Yeah.
So, well, Frank offers to serve Leanne Goose. So did you know that Nell Tiger Free in real life is a vegetarian?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. So I was watching some interviews. She actually threw up in a bucket in the eel episode. And she probably didn't eat that goose. She probably didn't eat that charcuterie, that the platter that Sean made.
Right.
But anyway, also, have you noticed how Dorothy she's always cutting people off. She's always finishing their sentences for them. For example, when Sean is about to respond to Courtney about the duck melting in her mouth, it reminded me of this scene in season 1.
Goose is delicious. It really melts in your mouth.
Yes. Sean is a master.
Thank you, Courtney.
I learn a lot from watching him. He's very
Talented, yes, as long as you have time for everything else.
I don't think that. I'm going to respectfully disagree here. When Courtney gave him the compliment, I thought Sean then looked at Dorothy, waiting for her to say something, which she did. She said, Sean is a master. And then he said, thank you, Courtney, showing that they're on the same page.
Okay. I guess maybe it's just my dislike for Dorothy then.
I don't blame you. Well, Dorothy looks at the high chair longingly at one point, and I wondered if that was real or just in her head, but it was in another scene, so she had an empty high chair there anticipating Jericho's arrival.
And Natalie is blowing Julian's phone up, and Julian is doing bump in the bathroom. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Then he goes to lines, from a bump to lines of Coke, as he makes several trips to the bathroom. The wine isn't good enough anymore, too. He's not only is he doing Coke, he's also drinking the hard stuff. Yeah, he's. I don't think Natalie is calling because she's lovesick either.
Why do you think she's calling then?
Well, A, we thought maybe she's part of the cult, but B, I think she knows he's spiraling and is hitting bottom.
Maybe. Dorothy is at the table. She hears a horn and thinks it's George with Jericho, so she runs outside. But instead, it's another family with a baby crying outside. This reminded me of the scene in episode 9, Jericho, where Dorothy thought she heard Jericho crying on the baby monitor, but it was really the neighbor. You guys remember that?
Oh, baby, it's okay. Come here.
So Dorothy's sad. She's disappointed. She's sitting on the steps in the cold. Also, the way she looked down the street is almost the same as in episode 9 when Jericho was left in the car.
Well, Sean comes out and joins Dorothy outside in the snow, and he's being so nice to Dorothy. He puts a blanket on her, and Dorothy starts wondering if she was wrong, and she's willing to wait until sunset for them to show up with Jericho.
Yeah. Speaking of the snow in that scene, M. Night Shyamalan is known for shooting his productions in Philadelphia. And I saw an interview that it took them about 3 days of filming for them to transform 21st and Spruce Street into that wintry wonderland that we're seeing, which is kind of fun. I guess it's no surprise. M. Night Shyamalan, he storyboards and everything, every detail is thought out. But I thought that was kind of cool. I'd like to visit there.
Oh, yeah.
We're forever in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it makes you want to go there, huh? Well, then Julian goes into the kitchen and pours himself yet another drink. Leanne then checks up on him. She wants to talk about what happened between them when they slept together, but Julian states it was a mistake and apologizes. It got weird.
Yeah, he hit it and quit it.
He did. Julian's definitely not the guy who's going to call you back the next day. And Leanne's feeling herself at this point, too.
She is. She's totally feeling herself. Julian looks haggard, though.
Yeah, he looked bad. Leanne says she feels different and is really enjoying her seductive power at this point.
She asked Julian if she can take his pain away.
Like I did last night.
When Leanne says, "Let me take your pain away" to Julian, it reminded me of the Haggis episode with Natalie and Julian in the basement.
Oh.
So
why? What did Natalie say to Julian that reminded you?
She said, "Let me take." She didn't say the same exact thing. She said, "Let me take care of you, Julian."
Oh.
Let me take care of you, Julian.
Can we talk for a minute about how disturbing and amusing the games Julian, Frank, and Courtney were playing outside? Frank's Jaws impression, I can't even do it, of the fish was so weird.
Yeah, and Julian got it right away. Like he knows how lame his dad is, probably.
Oh my gosh. And Dorothy, surprisingly, is good at charades. What was it that Courtney was doing?
Yeah, the little inchworm thing she was doing is the very hungry caterpillar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was a children's book written in 1969, the same year I was born.
Hey.
Some say the message of that book is hope. Another, I think, symbolism in this show of Sean's hope, of Dorothy's hope. Julian is pacing the room while very high, increasingly getting more irritated.
I was like, is he trying to overdose here? Like, why does he keep doing it? Then he heads into the bathroom and starts listening to Natalie's voice messages offering him help while sniffing copious amounts of powder. Suddenly, Julian sniffs too much and he collapses and dies from an overdose. During this time, Dorothy was watching the news about a snowstorm, which, this just gives Dorothy a chance for some more denial because now she could blame the snowstorm for them not showing up with Jericho.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But Courtney hears a thump. No one else seems to have heard it. She walks down the hall. She opens the bathroom door. Julian falls out. She screams. Sean starts performing CPR.
Poorly.
You said don't start with compressions first.
Well, it's been a long time since I was CPR certified, but I always thought we started with clearing the airway, first and then go into that. But they obviously had no idea what they were doing.
I have no idea if they were doing it right
Maybe
or wrong.
I'm wrong, too. I don't know.
Well, Dorothy looks over in despair as Courtney calls the paramedics, and Leanne heads downstairs as Sean gives up.
Yeah.
So
what I want to know is, did Leanne feel that Julian had died? Because she kind of peeked up and looked over her shoulder or perked up. And then, with a concerned look on her face and came down the stairs at that time.
Mm-hmm. I think she did. Leanne, she comes down, she kneels, she kisses Julian, and then he wakes up.
I was like, yo.
Wow. I was like, when Leanne hammer fist him in the chest, the same way you do when you bring an EpiPen down, it reminded me of the Crickets episode on the little girl Olivia.
Yeah, when she was having the... Yeah. It's like her bringing the little girl back and bringing Julian back. So maybe the Crickets episode was foreshadowing for this actual resurrection. Who knows? Well, Julian, he wakes up, of course, he looks shocked and he says, I saw him there and he seemed okay. Then he stares at Leanne.
So Leanne again has brought someone back from the dead. So do you think the shock in Julian's eyes will mean his character will be changed forever now? Perhaps he will believe like Roscoe or Sean now.
Yeah. Well, Frank and Courtney help escort Julian to the ambulance at that point.
Yeah, Julian's father rats him out. He tells the paramedics that he had drugs and not just ibuprofen. Meanwhile, Leanne heads inside the basement. She sees the noose. Outside, there's a woman in black lurking in the middle of the street. Then there's a knock at the door.
Yeah, she looked like she was dressed in funeral clothes with a black veil. And she says, Mr. Turner, I understand you're looking for Jericho. And then it fades to black. So, wow. Yeah. Well, what did you think of Goose?
I love the absurdity of it all. And I like the way the show is progressing. I'm old school. I watch shows back in the day, week to week, but I think it being week to week, it gives us time to marinate on what we've seen, to digest it. We can talk about it each week with you guys as a community. And I love that. That's something you couldn't do if you just binged it all. What about you?
Well, I know there's folks saying that it's slowing down. They don't know where it's going, blah, blah, blah. And I can't agree with that. I love the show. And for those folks, like, what more do you want? Look at the fireworks we saw in this. We saw Leanne resurrect Julian. Like, wow. And then Leanne's turning into a bad girl. Like, it was great. Is there anything you didn't like?
Other than it seemed super short. It was a super short, quick episode.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it was 27 minutes. I mean, in the first season, there were shows that were like 34 minutes. But, I mean, with as much content as they give us, that 5 minutes seems to really count. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I didn't like the show Dorothy was putting on, like what person sets up a suicide scene for others to find,
Yeah, it's pretty desperate, pretty sad. Who was your favorite character?
Oh, by far, Courtney with a K. She didn't get rattled at all. She was having so much fun. Julian was being the biggest prick I've ever seen, and she was just entertained by it. Every time I thought she was going to be offended, she either laughed or said something funny. So it was great. But Frank will get an honorable mention for me, too.
My favorite was Frank.
Okay.
And in my opinion, he had the best line of the show.
The paramedics are here.
We have to get him checked out. There could be residual brain damage.
What was your favorite line of the show?
Well, that one was hard to argue with, but I'm going to go with when Courtney, Julian, and Frank first pulled up, and they were, giving Courtney a rundown. Julian was just being a jerk while he was explaining, and he gave this quick ass backwards explanation, and then asked Courtney, "Do you understand?" like real smart ass. She just looked at him incredulously with a smile on her face and said, no.
She kind of laughed like,
yeah,
no.
like who would understand this? What about you guys? Who was your favorite character in this episode, and what was your favorite line?
Yeah. Well, my prediction is that the finale is going to reveal who the cult is. And I think Dorothy is starting to wake up.
Okay. I think, and we're going to find out what Leanne is supposed to be doing in the cult, like what her role is.
Okay.
And then what the cult's all about. Right. So, yeah.
Needless to say, we have many questions, as I'm sure you guys do after watching this episode. And I'm pretty sure the season finale may not be able to answer them all.
Sure.
Hopefully we'll find out in season 3. Not season 4. But I want to know what will happen to Julian. Will this trip to the hospital make Julian realize that he needs to let Natalie help him to heal?
Why did he snort himself into oblivion? That would be nice.
I don't know. Who did Julian see? He said he saw him and that he seemed fine. I think he was Jericho. What do you guys think? What do you guys think Julian was referring to?
Personally, I think he was referring to Jericho, and I'll tell you all why. Because when Leanne asked him who, he was about to answer, and then he looked at Dorothy and clammed up, like he didn't want to hurt her feelings or shatter the illusion or anything. So it's got to be Jericho.
Right. Do you think Julian is a zombie now, like Roscoe?
Zombie juju. Well, I know he better be kissing Leanne's ass in the next episode, the finale, because she gave him some and then she resurrected his ass.
He better.
And who's the woman under the veil standing on the Turner doorstep? I'm assuming it's Josephine, and I'm kind of cheating because the official cast list has Barbara Sukowa on it, listed as Josephine, and that was definitely her.
I think it's her, but
you called it.
Kind of. What does Aunt Josephine want though? What will Aunt Josephine do to Leanne? So we found out a few more details about Leanne this season, but we still don't know, exactly who she is. We don't know why she has these abilities. Yeah. Did she bring Jericho to life permanently, or, was it just an illusion?
Or are we being led on another wild goose chase?
That would be perfect.
All right, guys. So we did that Would You Rather Servant Edition video. And really sorry about the confusion with the polling buttons. It turns out that you have to have 1,000 followers or more to be able to do that. And we didn't know that before we posted it. Now, we have an awesome 148 followers, but we couldn't get the polling things done. So thanks for being cool and putting your answers in the comments and stuff. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. So we're going to go through those questions real quick, those answers.
Yeah.
All right. So the first question was, would you want boba or croquembouche? And the vast majority picked boba, with only 2 adventurous eaters that would eat the placenta bread.
The next one was, would you rather Leanne be good or bad? It was a very close race, but good barely ran one out.
Surprise.
So, yeah.
Next, we had normal or supernatural, and supernatural won by a landslide. It seems we all want it to be supernatural, and hey, it's confirmed it's supernatural after this week.
Next one was, do you want to see Leanne reunited with her mom or Dorothy with Jericho? And surprisingly, Leanne with her mannequin mom won out. Which, by the way, we haven't got that answer yet.
No, we didn't
get to see it.
We didn't see that. Crickets or roaches? It was 100% crickets.
Sean's Pizza Oven won big time.
Dinner with Uncle George or Aunt May? By far, Uncle George. Only 1 vote for Aunt May.
Right. Splinters won. Only 2 people wanted boils like me, 2 other people.
Friends with Sean or Julian? We have a tie.
Oh, yeah.
2 of the coolest characters.
I think if we would have done that Would You Rather after this episode, though, Sean would have won.
Yeah, because Juju was tripping. Well, we tried to do something different to entertain you guys. That's why we did that thing. But it didn't get very many views in comparison to the reviews. So do us a favor and just let us know what kind of stuff you'd like to see us do.
Yeah. Next week is the big finale.
Yay.
And we are so excited. We're also going to have some special guests joining us.
Is it M. Night Shyamalan?
Yes. No.
Maybe.
I wish.
Well, if you guys like this video, give us your like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.